We're talking receivers today, fresh off the combine. Talk about free agent receivers, NFL draft receivers. Some guys decided not to participate at all in Indy. We'll talk about all of it today on the NFL War Room podcast. All right, welcome into the NFL War Room podcast. I'm your host, Matt Stopsky. We have a bit of a change for you all. We are going daily, every single day. You're going to hear from me Monday through Friday talking about the NFL. I love the draft. I love free agency. I was one of those weird kids that played Madden just to get to the draft, just to get the free agency. This is my time. This is what I love to do. We'll still have Coach Matt Giatina on. No, he's not as available as much as I am because he works in a real job. I can do my stuff from home. So when my day is over, I can just throw this on and do a podcast. So I'm going to do this every day. I'm hoping to have some more guests on throughout the time we do this. But for now, it's just me today. And I kind of like it that way because we have a lot to talk about. All right. So I just came back from Indianapolis. It was great to see a bunch of old friends there I haven't seen in a long time. I had a chance to see my former colleagues at PFF. I saw Anthony Tresh and Ben Lindsay and Austin Gale and Mike Renner and George Shahiri. So it was good seeing those guys. I haven't seen them in a long time. I got to see, obviously, favorites like Brad Spielberger and Trevor Sikkema and Brett Coleman, EJ Snyder, Eric Eager. TD was out, making moves. I didn't get a chance to see Thomas that much, but see Solomon Wilcots, Charles Davis. It was really a great time. Got to meet Tom Grossi, who told me about how MetLife would let him in for his 30 for 30 and had to shoot his episode on the side of the New Jersey Turnpike, which is not great, but it was cool meeting him. Honestly, it was great. I haven't been to Indy since 2022, and it was a pretty abbreviated 2022 when I was there. But this year, I got to really see everybody. Friends like Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, Charlie Campbell, Matt Collier, A.K. Magula. I'm gonna forget somebody. We're doing this, but like it was. What I'm trying to say is, it was really cool. It was really cool to see everybody again. I missed doing it. I didn't get a chance to go to Mobile this year. Things have changed. Obviously, I have a daughter now, so I can't always go to these things. But going to Indy was fun. But coming off of Indy, we have a new 40-yard dash record. Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy runs a 4.21. Absolutely incredible. 4.21. The main question is, does it matter? Yeah, obviously running a 4.21 is incredible. And Worthy was already mentioned as a possible top 50 pick, according to Grind the Mocks. I imagine he will go a bit higher because there's a massive drop right now between the top receivers, guys like Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., and then getting down to like Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas Jr. Not in terms of talent. We'll go over that a little bit later, but in terms of where people are perceiving them to go. So there's like those guys in the top like 7 or 8, and then we don't get to the receiver until like the 20s. So could Xavier Worthy move up and go to 28, 29, 30? Possibly. But he tested super well, which is great. I actually have a chance now to grind all the numbers and get a preliminary draft grade on most of these guys without baking in the analytics, baking in the film. Xavier Worthy looks like a possible impact player. He would be 5th in this class. Granted, analysts are coming to play. Film's going to come into play. Film carries a lot of weight, right? I had a chance to watch Harrison and Rome and Keon and Neighbors earlier in the year. I have to go back and rewatch their stuff to give them a final film grade. So we'll see where all that lands. But it's interesting to see now that we have everything filled in for our primary and secondary traits, where these guys land. However, though, and this is something that I was able to talk to with a head of analytics at one of the teams. And actually, he mentioned it first, and I kind of like I built on top of it. These guys are skipping, not just receivers, but a lot of players are skipping agility drills. You're seeing a lot of guys doing speed drills, and they're vertical and broad, and that's it. And from what I've found from my research, the 3-cone and the shuttle are way more indicative of future success for receivers than 40-yard dash and vertical. So these receivers just skipping agility makes me worried. If to me, 3-cone and shuttle are primary traits. Vertical and 40, speed and explosiveness or physical explosiveness are secondary traits. Still very important, but secondary traits. Which is why more than half skipped in terms of guys that we have ranked within 250. Skipped for receivers. So we have to guess, which I don't love to do. I've been watching film for 15, 16, 17 years at this point, so I can kind of guess, but I would rather have a number and a film grade and put it together than just go purely off film grade. Some of these guys will run at their pro days. Marvin Harrison Jr. will not. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a little concerning to me, and I know I got an eye roll from my boy Dave Salfaro when I mentioned this in Indianapolis. But here's the deal, right? While Marvin Harrison Jr. still ranks as one of the best in this class, will probably end up ranking the best in this class when it's all said and done. He's not that much further than Rome and Malik, right? And I had this conversation with them at the guys at PFF where either Marvin Harrison Jr. is an elite prospect, and so is Malik Nabers and Rome Odunze, or he's not, and he's more of an impact level prospect, right? Because both of those guys, especially Malik, is seen as a 1A, 1B, or slightly below 1 to 2. But if we think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a generational prospect and Malik Nabers is, a Pro Bowler, then they're not that close. So we need to figure out where they really are. And I have a feeling from watching the film, looking at the numbers, looking at the potential testing numbers. Luckily, there was a good piece on Marvin Harrison Jr. in Bruce Feldman's Freaks article earlier this year, so we can kind of gauge what he would test at, because his high school testing numbers were horrible. So looking at that, right now, again, without film, without analytics, Marvin Harrison Jr. is an 88.8, Malik Nabers at 87.2, and Rome's an 89. So we're within the margin of error here, right? Film and analytics are going to bump these guys up and down. So there's not a final grade. But I am concerned. I am concerned about how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Because if he's not that elite prospect, I don't know if I want to take him in the top 5. We have seen top 10 receivers historically not pan out. Right now, there are exceptions. Guys like Julio Jones, AJ Green, Jamar Chase, who went to play with Joe Burrow. But most of them end up not being the best receiver in their class. And if you're telling me I'm taking a receiver at 2 and he's not going to be the best receiver in his class, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. And why is that? Well, we talked about a little bit on the Super Sports podcast, not last week, but 2 weeks ago. And Eric was talking about how a lot of that has to do with, if a receiver goes to a bad team, or goes high, he's going to a bad team, and bad teams really have bad quarterbacks, and bad quarterbacks can't deliver the ball. Makes sense. Because when you're playing the NFL, it's not about how good you are, right? It's not about your traits. It's about producing, right? And if you don't produce, it doesn't matter. So I am a little worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. But we'll go over the draft stuff, not today. Later. I will say, I'm butchering these guys' names. I apologize. Ricky Parasol from Florida. That kid is impressive. He just, again, based off of the testing numbers and the primary and secondary traits, ranks above all of them right now. Again, we're watching the film, watching analysis is going to drop him down a bit. But for a guy that's not supposed to go until around, the mid to late second round, early third round, could be a good value add, right? Could be a good value add. So we'll see when we dive into the film a bit. Not today, but in future days. This receiving group, I'm excited about them. I think they're deeper than we're talking about, and I don't think there is a Julio Jones, Jamar Chase, Calvin Johnson in this class, even though Marvin Harrison Jr. is in it. And we'll go more into Marvin Harrison Jr. On another day. I have finished the free agent grades for wide receivers, or just receiver grades in general. I totally revamped my receiver grades. I felt they didn't accurately represent the NFL currently, and which is not unusual. I usually tweak grades here and there because, with every new year, a new group of players ends up being at the top, right? And if you have someone new come in and they don't fit your previous model, then the model is now out of date, and you have to change it up a little bit and see where it went wrong, or not really went wrong, where things are changing. So I redid the whole grades though, and I got the new grading structure. And I'm going to go over these guys real quick because, in my opinion, the receiving group of free agents is weak, which is not a huge shock, right? But at the top is Mike Evans. Is Mike Evans that good? Yeah, no, he's pretty. Well, what? Here we go. Boom, there it is. I forgot. I made a slide for all you. I can make slides as my daughter just falls and hits her head, and you probably, yep, there she goes. My wife is out there. I'm not forgetting about my kid. But this is what I see right now. Your first question is probably, where is Michael Pittman Jr.? And that is a fair question. The main thing is, I don't think he's going to get the free agency. I think they're going to work out a long-term deal in Indianapolis, or he's going to get tagged. And because of that, I am not going to waste my time to grade him right now, because I am one man and kind of busy, and I can't watch all these guys. And I do go kind of deep into this. So if he does become available, it looks like that's actually not going to happen, which we'll know in 2 days. But as of right now, I think I saw Ari tweet about it a couple of days ago. He's going to end up in Indianapolis. But these guys don't look like they are going to be tagged or going to resign anytime soon. We know Mike Evans is going to test the market. Mike Evans is easily the best one in this group. All right. We'll go over the grading scale real quick. 90 and above is all pro type players, right? 85 to 89 is impact level players, Pro Bowl players. Mike Evans sitting right at the top of that. And then 80 to 84, your plus starters, right? They, not going to change the game too much on a consistent basis, but they are definitely have some high upside. And you're never going to worry about these guys in your lineup. 75 to 79, we're looking more at average starters, fringe starters, guys that, they have obvious weaknesses in their game. You don't want these guys at a impact position or rely on them week to week to win games. 74 to 70, we're talking about rotational players, and then below 70, like, we really shouldn't be talking about those guys. Those are guys that should be backups, special teams, practice squad. So none of that. From here, Calvin Ridley, Odell Beckham Jr., which, listen, it shocked me. I didn't think Odell would get this high of a grade, but he did. And I had a chance to watch his film again. He's still good. He's still a plus starter. He's not the Odell that he once was, but he's still good enough. And then below that, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel. Tyler Boyd is at one time probably would have been that green category, but he's just has fallen off in years, which is not surprising. Like, he was never that good of an athlete. So as time caught up with him, him dropping is not, super surprising. But let's talk real quick about some of these bigger names. And we'll start with Mike Evans, because that is the guy that is going to be the first domino to fall in this receiver group. Now, Aaron Schatz wrote a nice piece on ESPN, and I was looking at that. I think it was, every one free agent every team needs to add. And he had Mike Evans to the Chiefs, which would be incredible. It'd be a cheat code for the rest of the league, but it'd be incredible, right? Now, the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with MVS as their number one. Well, I guess technically Rashee Rice, but MVS as their highest paid receiver. And he was not that good. And they cut him, obviously. So they knew it was kind of a bust to a degree. But Mike Evans, what is so interesting about Mike Evans, and I had a chance to go back and watch his A&M film, because I went all the way back to watch some of this stuff. Just how consistent this kid is, man. I say kid as if he's not the same age as me. He was bodying kids in college, and he's still bodying kids now. His grade is an 89. His draft grade, because I went back and redid the draft grades, because the grades I had back when Mike came out in 2014 is not the same grades I have now, but I changed the grades a bit to make it fit the new structure, was a 90. So we're talking about a guy who in his 10 NFL seasons has dropped 1 point. That is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Solid athlete, that's, but not anything to write home about. His speed is okay. It's bad. It's not bad, but it's limited, right? He was a 4.53 guy coming out. Now it's, it is what it is, but he's still incredible, right? It's about a guy who's one of the best at contested catches, right? It's kind of like the DeAndre Hopkins thing, right? Like, no, you can't make a living on contested catches unless you're absolutely incredible at contested catches. And that's Mike Evans. And he continues to be so, which is incredible. My value for him was $21 million. I think Brad Spielberg over at PFF has his projected contract at $23 million. So it's a $2 million difference. So it really isn't that big of a difference. And I think it's about 52.5 guaranteed. Honestly, absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it for Mike Evans. Actually, I should probably try to show you guys what I've been working on. I'll see if I can pull this up real quick. I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll see how this looks. It's meant more for what's it called, for like the hold. It's not words are not coming out right now. It's meant more to to be on a piece of paper than it is to be on a graphic, so the dimensions are all off. It's not meant for broadcast, so it would look kind of crappy. But I'll see if I do it on TikTok, I'll throw it up, because it actually will fit the TikTok dimensions relatively well. But I think he's going to like what I've created here, and I'll post it on Twitter. Why not? Because fuck it. No, what I love to do most is post my work for free and then have people tell me I'm wrong. So that'll be fun. But Mike Evans is incredible. That's how many more times can I say that? But where he excels, it's rare to see someone be so good at both against man and zone. It really is. He's still super efficient, and his deep ball, his deep receiving ability, even for a guy who's not that fast, who really doesn't get separation that well anymore, or really you can say really never did begin with. He is incredible, and he's still a wide receiver one in my opinion. If he ends up with the Chiefs, yeah, it's game over for the rest of us, man. It was fun trying, I guess. The next receiver, he mentioned Michael Pittman to the Bears. Again, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Michael Pittman's staying in Indianapolis. Is Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, he's was at least at one point a second team All-Pro before the suspension and that year off he took in Atlanta. He's not that good anymore. Like, he's still a solid starter. And I still think he's a hell of a player, man. I really do. He's easily the second best receiver for me in this class. And being 29 years old and what he's good at, getting separation, running routes. He's a savvy route runner. He's a savvy route runner. He runs sharp routes. His separation has always been good from college now to pros. The only real issue or two issues I kind of have with Calvin Ridley is his drops, and his athletic ability. He was a 5.12 RAS at a college. Doesn't look like that's changed that much. His contested catch ability is okay, and his yak is kind of gone down in his older age. Now, it was his first year back, right, from suspension this past year. Would love to see how he does next year in 2024. I have him at $9 million a year. Brad has him at 17, so it's a bit of a different, right? A bit of a jump between the two. But this is what happens in free agency, right? You can't pay a guy their value in free agency. You have to overpay for them. The question is, do you overpay for a guy like Calvin Ridley? Maybe, right? I always look through through the lens of the New York Giants because I'm a New York Giants fan. I love the New York Giants. The New York Giants are in desperate need of receiving help, right? Just looking at their guys, their two highest graded guys are probably both Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, who is about 78 each. I think maybe Wan'Dale will be a 79, but it's close, right? But you really need a plus starter. You don't need a great receiver, but you do need a plus starter. And the Giants currently don't have one. And you could say maybe the closest would be Darius Slayton because he's been the most consistent player on that team, leading them in receiving yards. Now, granted, leading has been like 750, so it's not huge. But he also might be cut. There's been a lot of talks about him getting cut. I don't know anything, but that's possible. So if you're the New York Giants or a team that's so receiver depleted, or let's say the Chiefs can't work out a deal with Mike Evans and he goes back to Tampa Bay to play with Baker Mayfield for another year. Do you look to Calvin Ridley? Yeah, I would say probably, right? Because I think his skill set will work out great with the Chiefs, man. His ability to get open is super impressive. And I think he's going to be an asset at wherever he goes. Just 17 million, man, is a lot. It's a lot. Which is why I think I'd rather go with Odell Beckham Jr., right? Odell, I have it as an 82. It's a 1-point drop. I have his value at $8 million a year. Brad has him at 10. And it's a 1-year deal. The problem is, though, Odell he's definitely going to have some suitors, and he's not going to go to a bad team. He's going to want to go to a team that has a real chance. So, unfortunately, a team like the New York Giants, who kind of has to prove that they're in it, probably can't get Odell. Maybe he can because of the nostalgia factor of him starting his career with the New York Giants. I personally would love to see Odell Beckham Jr. back as a New York Giant. I think that would be the best situation for the New York Giants, right? Because it's a $10 million deal. It's a 1-year deal. He's still a plus starter. And get him paired up with Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt. I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be absolutely incredible. But most likely he's going to go to a team like honestly, the Chiefs. The Chiefs would be great with Odell, right? But what's between Odell now and Odell years ago, right? We're about a guy who has had 2 ACL tears, who's definitely not the same elite player that he once was. So where's the change, right? Well, his hands are still incredible, right? He's still one of the best hands in the league. His separation is still pretty damn high, which is impressive. And his speed is okay. 4.43 speed has always been pretty solid. His agility has always been there. Really, the difference for me is the contested catch consistency isn't there as much as it used to be when he was younger. Granted, he can still make a hell of a catch, right? He's still one of the best catchers in the league, but it's not what it once was. Same thing with his yak. Now, he used to be an elite player after the catch. He will put on a clinic occasionally. Just really the difference between Odell now and Odell when he was younger was the consistent greatness. Now you see it every now and then, and when you see it, it's spectacular. But it's not there. Snap in, snap out. But he's still absolutely worth the money. And a team that needs a receiver that could use a plus starter, man, I think Odell would be incredible. I don't think Aaron had him on his list on ESPN, but and we'll go over this stuff more as I dive through the teams. Actually, I wonder if I pull it up real quick. Yeah. If I could just look for a team real quick that I think would suit this well. Yeah, he's good. He's good. The problem is, like, how many teams need New England? But like New England's, he's not going to go to New England. That's just not, doesn't make any sense for him to go to New England. Green Bay doesn't make any sense. Yeah, no, Minnesota's about to pay Justin Jefferson $30 million a year or north of that, according to some reports, which they should. Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the league. You know what? Now, kind of looking at it, Detroit Lions, to pair opposite of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, Amon-Ra usually works in the slot, have Odell on the outside. That could be a hell of a group. Yeah, that could be a really hell of a group. Chicago could probably use a receiver. Same thing with Pittsburgh. I don't see him going to Pittsburgh. Cincinnati. Also, here's the thing about Cincinnati, right? They just grabbed T. Higgins back, so that's not going to work. He can probably most likely goes back to Baltimore. I think that's Baltimore can really use him, and I think that he liked playing there. So I could definitely see them, going back to Baltimore, Cleveland, but I don't think he goes back to Cleveland after what happened. Just Atlanta. Listen, I would love to see him play with Zach Robinson. I think he would do great in that offense. So, just kind of, again, quick skim through this. Carolina, he's not going to Carolina. New Orleans, I can't see him playing in New Orleans. But maybe, right? Like, he's from Louisiana. So maybe, absolutely maybe. Indy's going to have maybe with Indy, probably not in Tennessee. It's so what we're looking at here again. Sorry for the scroll through my roster real quick. There's going to be a handful of teams that could use Odell, but Odell's going to be. I think honestly, I think I'm higher on Odell than most, and it's not because I'm a New York Giant fan. It really isn't because the grades were done. Was all done. It's all maths, right? Had no outside bias into it. Honestly, I built it around Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it came out with Odell being this high. So they had to blame him, I guess. But from looking at it, I think Odell will probably be like he'll probably be in that second, third wave of free agents. First going to be a 1-year deal. We're going to see Evans fall first, and then we'll see guys like Calvin Ridley. Who else had a couple year deal? I think just looking back I want to look at Brad's thing real quick and see where he has, right? Like Tyler Boyd's got a 2-year deal. These multi-year deal guys are always going to fall first. Honestly, it might just end up being those guys fall first, and then it goes to those 1-year deal guys. And if you're telling me the 1-year deal guys, like Odell versus Curtis Samuel versus Tyler Boyd versus Gabe Davis, like give me Odell every single day. But we're in the weeds, man, of draft time. The combine is done. So we can start going through these numbers. Here's the thing about the combine, right? And a lot of people don't see the value in it. But I was asking the same conversation I had about the agility drills with that guy who runs an analyst department in the NFL. And I asked, do we have enough tracking data, enough history of tracking data to supplement these guys that are missing out? And he said, no, No, we do not. So it is important, man. It is important to get these numbers, because film, as much as film can, doesn't lie. I disagree. I think film can be deceiving, right? Like we've seen some guys who look pretty good on film, right? And then you see their numbers and you go, that ain't gonna work, right? You also see the opposite way around, but it's rare, right? I would say it's more rare for a guy to have horrible numbers be good, than a guy with good film and horrible numbers be good, right? Like if you have horrible athletic testing numbers, like there's a reason, right? And those guys usually do not pan out to the level you expect, right? Like I'm not saying like if a guy's been like playing out of his mind, right, in college, and he has bad testing numbers, doesn't mean like he's not going to be a pro. Like if you thought he was going to be a plus starter, he's probably more like an average starter, right? But if you thought a guy was going to be an average starter and he's got elite athletic testing numbers, he might be a plus starter, right? Like so, it's you change up your tiers a bit. So it is I think it's very important to get these numbers in. So I'm excited to dive into these numbers a bit more. I only got back from Indy a couple of days ago, and I was producing today on Sirius XM NFL Radio. They gave me stickers. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put the sticker on my laptop right now, and it's absolutely gonna break the laptop because I have zero luck with Sirius XM laptops. But I do have some cool news coming out. Which if you follow the Sumer Sports podcast, which I have been producing for the past few episodes, Thomas and Eric are getting a show on Sirius XM NFL Radio. It's going to start airing on Fridays. I believe it's 7. It's following Movie the Chains, which I'll be producing. We're super excited about that. So I'll have that's some new career news. You also can catch me on all these other I'll catch all the other Sirius shows. I do a lot of them. They're fun. They're good guys. I think I'm doing late hits on Thursday. You won't hear me. If you hear me on Sirius XM, something went horribly wrong. Because now I'm on a tangent, but I was talking with my boss over the New York Giants, and I joked that if Bob ever missed a game, I could step in. And John goes, "You have no idea how low on the totem pole you are to fill in for Bob. I'm pretty sure I'm below the girls who do our lunch." But that's okay. It's all right. Listen, you got to start somewhere, right? But Indy was great. I'm going to wrap up because I'm doing it in my daughter's bedroom. The thing I have lit behind me is her dresser. So I'm going to let her go to bed. And I'm going to post this episode in the morning, which if you're listening to, then I accomplished that goal. But we will be doing this every day. So tomorrow I'll be talking about some of these receivers that I actually have a chance to kind of give final grades on. I'm hoping to get through final grades on the top receivers tomorrow. I would imagine I at least get through the top 3. And then we'll talk about that, man. I'm sure I'll have some wild takes, I'm sure, but not dumb takes. I'm not a fan of just saying shit for sake of saying shit. I will have something to back it up with. But we will see. I'm probably the lowest person on Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's not a fun place to be, but I've been there before. I said I thought I liked Khalil Mack more than Jadeveon Clowney, and no one and their mother disliked Jadeveon Clowney. I guess that's not true. Merrill Hodge is like the Jadeveon Clowney. I love Merrill Hodge. I had a chance to work in the Super Bowl. So it's not wouldn't be the first time I was right. Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong either. But we will see. When I dive into the grade, I'll give him his final grade because he's not testing at all, which I think is fucking ridiculous. Not testing the combine is one thing, right? Which also, who didn't? I think Malik Neighbors didn't even do the height weight. Some of this stuff is just fucking stupid. But I get it. Ryan Leaf was saying today, a lot of some of these top guys have the leverage, you should use it. I get it. This might be the most leverage you have in your career. But as someone who likes to, model and model is a very generous term for what I do. For everyone who likes to do research, losing data like that is not great. But Marvin Harrison Jr. not even doing testing at for a pro day is just I don't get it. When he's not the clear receiver one, so I don't get it. But tomorrow we'll have grades on at least Marvin Harrison Jr., probably Marvin, Malik, and Rome. So we'll have that for your Tuesday. how am I going to, so I thought of I did the whole show. I was actually I was organized and I didn't think of an outro. So cheers.